Greetings and salutations everyone, and welcome back to another of my videos. Thank you so much for tuning in to my channel and to this video. I did promise that I would be doing a series of videos on the CSEC Theatre Arts past paper questions for the students who are doing their upcoming examination, and also just for posterity, so the teachers can always have them as a teaching tool. So far we've done part 1, part 2, and I'm about to get into part 3. I do trust and hope that all of you have found part 1 and part 2 quite useful. I've seen some of the comments, and there are persons who were saying thank you, the videos were quite useful for them, and so I'm happy for that. And so without much further ado, I'm going to jump straight into part 3. But before I start, I'm just going to ask you to do me a quick favor by just hitting the subscribe button while you are watching and you're listening. It's not going to take much out of you and take away your time. And I'm also going to ask you to give the video a thumbs up if you think that these videos are quite useful. So let's get straight into part 3. Question number 1. And of course, we're focusing mostly on the cultural forms that are being studied for this examination year. So let's get into question 1. Which of the following elements is least likely to be seen in a performance of storytelling? And notice the important word there is least likely. So what this means, it doesn't mean that you will not see it. You can see it, but there's a slim chance that you will see it. So it's not something that is used quite often in storytelling. So let us look at our option. Option A, special effects. Option B, a moral lesson. Option 3, the use of proverbs. And option D, call and response. And so we can of course go through our process of elimination and which ones will get us closer to whatever it is that our response would be. Now, proverbs, the use of proverbs are a very strong component of our Caribbean culture or within stories, because they often start from somewhere and you are used to explore or explain the different things that are happening within society and within life, and they teach our lessons. They're quite words of wisdom. And so of course proverbs will find its way in storytelling quite often if you listen to stories that are being told. B talks about a moral lesson. Now almost every story comes with a moral lesson, it goes without saying. So we know that we can take out B and C to know that those are not the answer, and so we are left with A and D. Now with storytelling, it is very interactive, and one way of keeping interaction in storytelling is to use the call and response. So the storyteller does the call and the audience will respond. So that eliminates D. And so we are down to A, special effects. And so when you think about the element that's least likely to be seen in storytelling, you know the answer would be special effects. So yes, you might see it there, but very unlikely. You won't have any smoke machines, you won't have any people coming down out of the roof, etc. All these kinds of fancy things that gives the special effects. And so the answer here is A. Let's jump to the next question. Question 2. In the Caribbean, at which of the following locations do wake normally occur? In the Caribbean, at which of the following locations do wake normally occur? And you know, when we talk about wake, we're talking about all the activities that that surrounds death and burial. Yes, so let us look at the options available to us. A, at a church. B, at the cemetery, or the cemetery as it's pronounced. C, at the home of a friend. And D, at the home of the deceased. So let us eliminate again. If we're talking about all the rituals surrounding death and burial that takes place regarding somebody who dies, we know that A would not necessarily be the response or the answer. Yes, when you think about a cemetery, in cases, yes, you bury individuals at the ceremony at the cemetery, but that is the last part or the last moment in the death and the burial ritual. So all the wake activities, yes, would not fall at the cemetery when it is time for the funeral to happen. At the home of a friend, why would you keep your wake at the home of a friend? Why would you turn around the house of the home of a friend when somebody there has not died? And so our likely response here is D, at the home of the deceased, because that is the individual around whom all these kinds of celebrations, yeah, are happening. And so the answer here is D. Good. Of course, I'm going to circle in my own little way so you can see the response. So let's jump to question 3. Question 3 says, in a wake ritual, the main purpose of rearranging the furniture and the mattress in the house of the deceased is to, notice it says the main purpose. So let us look at all the options. A, you want to create confusion for the spirit. B, to discourage the spirit from staying. C, create a space for the ritual to be performed. And D, discourage the spirit from interacting in the ritual or at the ritual. Now, let us eliminate again. A, you want to create confusion for the spirit. Yes, you might want to confuse the spirit, but you can confuse the spirit and the spirit still stay. Right? And so it stay in and around, lingering around the yard and whatever it is that is happening. But that's not what you want when you're rearranging the furniture and the mattress. Now, if you've never heard about rearranging the furniture and the mattress when somebody died, go and talk to your grandparents or an elder in your community, elderly person in your community, and they will give you the information. B, you want to discourage the spirit from staying. Yes, so therefore, remember it says the living and the dead cannot exist in the same space in that way. And so when somebody dies, you don't want them to still be in the house. You don't want the place to look so familiar to them. And so what you do, you change the things around in the house. So when the spirit of the deceased return to the home, everything will look quite unfamiliar and they would not recognize it as the space that they once occupied, and so they will leave. They will not want to stay. All right. C, create a space for the ritual to be performed. No, you're not trying to do that. Not inside your house. Yes, if you want to have the death rituals and the burial rites. D, discourage the spirit from interacting at the ritual, and you're unable to stop that in this same way. So therefore, the most likely response here is B. Again, guys, don't mind my inaccurate circling thing there, my lean lines. As I am circling, I just want to make sure that you are getting the correct answer and you're seeing the circling happening so you know which it is. So let us jump to question 4. Question 4. Jack's brother passed away recently. It is now Jack's responsibility to plan his brother's wake. Which of the following are most likely to be found in the traditional wake? And notice the operative word there is traditional. Yes, traditional. And this is important because what you find happening is that cultural forms evolve, and so the wake evolve and take on new elements, and so the modern day wake will have some elements that the traditional wake would not have had. And so you have to answer the question based on the traditional wake. So let us look at the options. A, rum, food, and hymns. So yes, we know that these things must be at the wake, but let us look at the other option to see if they give us a different response. So B, you want to have your dancers because, of course, all these cultural dances that are associated with wake will happen. Again, you have your hymns. People must sing hymns, and it's and a DJ. Is DJ a part of the traditional wake? Let us look at C. The option says rum, hymns, and sound systems. Do we have sound systems as part of our wake? So notice the things that are repeating. The rum and the hymns keep repeating. D, hymn, sound system, and game. So yes, you have games at traditional 9-9. You have the wake, you have the hymns, but you would not have sound system because sound system and DJing are modern. And so the most likely response of what you would find at a traditional wake would be rum, food, and hymns. All right, and so the answer would be A. Tell me if you got that one correct. If you did, just put it in the comment section and say, I got number 4 correct. Let's jump quickly to number 5. Which of the following skill must a stick fighter first develop? A, coordination, B, musicianship, C, communication, D, call and response. Now let us go through again. We're eliminating. A, why you do need coordination? Because a lot is happening when you're thinking about fighting, stick fighting. You're thinking about attacking and defending, but also you're moving around at the same time. You want to be swift on your feet, you can't be clumsy. So it therefore means the feet and the hand must be moving in tandem with the music and with whatever is happening in the ring. So of course we know they need the coordination. B, musicianship, so they can respond to the music with their bodies. But is that the first skill that is necessary? No, because you can develop the musicianship in terms of movement once the coordination is happening, but they don't necessarily have to be playing the drum. They don't have to know how to play and can count the music in that way, right? C, communication. Well, the communication for the stick fighter does not necessarily in the ring doesn't happen with words. It happens with the body and being in tune with the energy and the drums. So again, this would not be the most likely response. The call and response, the songs in stick fighting, they have call and response in them, but the stick fighter is not necessarily utilizing the call and response for the fight. And so the most likely response here would be A, that the stick fighter must develop coordination so they know how to navigate or to handle themselves in the ring or in the guile, if you want us to use that term. All right, let's jump to number 6. Which of the following dances are most commonly associated with the 9-night wake? So, let us put /wake because, of course, wake is a big umbrella term. But we are speaking about the 9-night now, some celebration where all the excitement happens. So let us look at all of them. A, Brockings and Kumina. B, Landship and Kumina. C, Dinkimini and Kumina. D, Brockings and Dinkimini. Now, all these are Caribbean cultural dances, but they all serve different purposes and are performed at different things. So we are talking about the wake. If you know anything about Brockings, Brockings is not about wake. Brockings is about emancipation celebration. So therefore, the answer could not be A, right? Again, B, Landship and Kumina. The answer could not be Landship because Landship is also not about celebrating the death. C, we have Dinkimini and we have Kumina. So we already identified D as Brockings and Dinkimini. So we've already identified that Brockings is not the answer. So in any of the options where we see Brockings, we can remove it. So it means we can take out A and D because those would not be the responses. But we are also establishing that Landship has nothing to do with death. So we can also remove B, which would leave us with the option C with Dinkimini and Kumina. Remember now, Dinkimini is that dance of death that represents the defiance that the living would have towards death to say that, listen, even though somebody's taken away from us, we still have the means by which we can reproduce. And of course, Kumina is also done in celebration of one's life. And so at a 9-night ceremony, you will definitely find Dinkimini or Kumina or you will find both. So the most appropriate response is C. Now, did you get this one correct? Again, put it in the comment section to tell me that you got number 6 correct, or if you didn't know it, tell me that you have learned something. Let me know that you're finding the video quite useful as you are watching. And of course, I want to pause here to remind you just to give it a thumbs up if you're also finding it quite useful. So let us jump to number 7 real quickly. Number 7, during the national curfew, radio was one of the primary means of communication. Which of the following cultural forms would best be shared as entertainment via this medium? Remember, we're talking about radio. So when you think radio, you're thinking about listening, you're thinking audio. Awake, let us look at the option. There's A, wake, B, night, C, storytelling, D, stick fighting. Now, awake is interactive, but it also has strong visuals, and would require everybody to be in the same space for you to see and feel energy and see what is happening, how the dance is unfolding, and how things are developing. And so, because of the visual components and how it is also done, A would not be the response, because wake would not be the best thing to be aired over a radio. So unless there's somebody describing it for you. The night. So the night and the wake, they are similar because the night is a part of the wake complex. So the fact that we've eliminated A, we can also eliminate B, which leaves us with 2 things, C and D. Stick fighting is visual. You have to see people fighting in order for you to understand and get a better feel and be entertained from whatever it is that is happening there. However, because storytelling is about somebody telling story and you, the audience, have to listen, it makes storytelling the most appropriate, yes, response. Notice it says a form that could best be shared via the medium of a radio, and storytelling would be our response. So our answer here would be C, and as usual, we are doing our circling. Question 8. Which of the following actions best describe the movement of the man dressed in the short pants? A, is it thrusting? B, is it attacking? C, is it defending? Or D, is it counter-attacking? Now, if you look at the stance of the gentleman, notice the one in the shorts. This is the one that is being spoken about. So you realize that he's doing what? Right? He is attacking. Notice where his hand is. Here is the hand, right? Here's the hand, and the stick is here. So it means it's coming over from this side, and it is about to go up to hit the stick here. The other man see it coming, and so this one in the blue is actually defending, but here is the one in the short shorts is actually doing an attack. And if you look at the stance of his body, it tells you that he's lunging forward, right? And his hand is about to go over, just to show you that he is attacking. And so the answer would be B. All right, let's jump to question 9. The main purpose of a wake is to A, comfort the bereaved family, B, celebrate the life of a family member, C, send off the spirit of the deceased person, and D, prepare for burial of the deceased individual. Now, yes, at a wake, or when we have wake, we also comfort the bereaved family, but that's not the main purpose. The main purpose of a wake is a celebration of the life of the deceased and to usher the person into the next work. And so you want to send them off in fine style. And so the best response here in terms of the purpose of a week is C, because we want to ensure that we are celebrating the life that the individual would have lived, and now that they've transitioned, we want to usher them over in fine style. All right, let's jump quickly to number 10. Which name is given to some of the hymns that are sung at a traditional wake? Notice it's a traditional wake. What do we call the hymns? Do we call them songs? No, in the language of Nine Night, you wouldn't use songs. Would you call them verses, which is B? No, you would not use verses. Right? Would you see it's a Sankey? And we're left with two options, D, tracking. Now, tracking is not a type of song. Yes, it's not a type of song, and so we can eliminate that, which would leave us with C, Sankeys. All the hymns that are sung, or some of the hymns that are sung at the Nine Night or at a wake session, is referred to as Sankeys. I hope you are getting the answers correctly, and if not, you are actually learning something. Let's jump to question 11. What is the name of the style normally used in the singing of hymns at a wake? What is the name of a style that's normally used in the singing of a hymn at a wake? And so we have different ways in which we describe the singing of a hymn, because we can call some of them long meter singing, etc. But you have to work with the options that are in front of us. And so let us look at our options. A, call and response. B, harmonizing. C, lining up. And D, vibrator. So the most likely response here is call and response, because harmonizing does not necessarily take place at a wake. Lining up, that's not a form of singing. And so the most likely response here would be the call and response. So the person who is leading the singing at the Nine Night or at the wake celebration will call or will track, and of course the audience will respond. Even with some of the more upbeat songs, you'll still have the call and response taking place, because that's how they are structured. All right, so let's get to number 12. Which of the following cultural forms would the items most likely be associated with? So pay attention keenly to the items that are there. You see the shakas, you see the drums, you're seeing the basin set up here with all the fancy things, you're seeing the bottles with the alcohol. And so we look at our option. A, traditional wake. B, landship gathering. C, carnival celebration. D, mashmarani celebration. Now, an easy way to do the elimination is to pay attention to the cultural forms that are being studied. Yes, for the examination period. So landship is not being studied, so therefore we can eliminate B. Carnival is not being studied right now for the examination, so we can eliminate carnival. And mashramani is also not being studied, so we can eliminate those. We are left with one thing, the traditional wake, because wake is still being studied on the syllabus. And so our answer is A. Easy breeze, right? Number 13. Which area of the body must the stick fighter protect the most? A, the arm. B, the foot. C, the head. D, the stomach. You can also use the question we answered before on stick fighting as it relates to attack and defend, in order to help you to answer the question. Now, remember, one of the things in stick fighting is there's about bust head. Yes, it's about giving a man a bust head. That's how you get a chance to get the upper hand. So you have to create a blood hole. Yes, and so therefore, the most important area that you must protect is the head. Protect yourself from getting a hit in the head. Protect yourself from damage, etc., and any kind of injury. So the answer here is C. Question 14. Storytelling best utilizes dialect or patois too. So let us look at the reasons, the options given for what they say that storytelling best, for why they say that storytelling best utilizes dialogue. Let's look at them. So A, make history realistic. B, sound more believable. C, capture cultural expression. And D, showcase the storyteller's voice. So of course, let us do some elimination and critical thinking and break it down. A, to make history realistic. Now you don't have to use patois to make, or dialect to make the history realistic. History is history, and it has been documented over the years by all the historians, so we don't need our dialect for that. So we can eliminate A to say that A is not a response. Let's go to B. Sound more believable. Now this would not be a reason, because you don't have to use dialect to sound believable. You can use just your intonation, and just use persuasive language and all the other techniques to help you sound more believable. So B would not be the answer. And so we're left with two choices. D, capture cultural expression. D, showcase the storyteller's voice. And let us look at D, showcase the storyteller's voice. Whether you use dialect or not, we will hear your voice. We'll understand how your voice works. We'll hear how you're able to do your pacing, your volume, your intonation, all the different things that comes with the voice. And so you don't need to use dialect in order to capture that. It therefore means it leaves us with one response, C, capture cultural expression. And let me explain to you why C would be the most likely response. Now, for the different Caribbean islands, the dialect is different. Yes, the dialect for the different Caribbean islands, when you listen to people, they are different in terms of sometimes the choice of words that they are used, even the cadence of it, meaning how it sounds is different, and even the structure of how they word things. And some words mean different things in different Caribbean islands, even though sometimes they are similar. And so what the dialect will do, it captures the cultural expression of the space that the story is being told in. So whether it is a storyteller's culture or the culture of the people to whom the storyteller is referring to, but the answer here is C. It is about cultural expression. Now, did you get this one correct? Put in the comment section if you were able to break it down and get this one correct. Let's get to question number 15. The origin of stick fighting is as a form of A, celebration for the enslaved, B, entertainment for the enslaved, C, martial arts practiced by the enslaved, and D, resistance against owners of the enslaved. Now this can be a tricky one if you're not paying attention, and you have to look at how it is worded. It says the origin of stick fighting is as a form of. Now origin here is speaking to beginning, and on one paper that I've seen, a past paper, it says the origin of stick fighting, and the question repeated itself on another paper and it used the word Genesis. So what it means, the beginning of stick fighting, where it started. And so let us break it down. So A, was it a celebration for the enslaved? Not necessarily. Yes, stick fighting was not seen as a form of celebration. Was it a form of entertainment for the enslaved? But not in terms of its origin. So it would not have been B as the response. C, martial arts practiced by the enslaved. Now, when you think about the origin of stick fighting among the enslaved, remember it came to us in the Caribbean. The enslaved brought it to the Caribbean with them, and so it was a form of martial arts dance, yes, as they were practicing whatever it is that they were doing in the ritual. And so that's how it started. Notice the word origin. This word here is the critical word that will help you with the response here. D, resistance against owners of the enslaved. Now, eventually, stick fighting became an act of resistance here in the Caribbean for the enslaved, because they'd use it against the slave masters and in their revolts and in their fights. But it was not the origin of stick fighting. It eventually became that when the enslaved were taken to the Caribbean and they had to live and find a way to preserve their own identity and also fight for their own freedom. And so the most likely response here, the answer here would be C, is a form of martial arts, all right, practiced by the enslaved, because that's what they used to do before they were brought to the Caribbean. So let's look at question 16. It says, in a production based on a particular cultural form, the character on stage stops and asks the audience's opinion on what was witnessed. Which cultural form would most likely have influenced this production? And notice the operative word here is most likely. So let us look at our options. A, wake. B, nine night. C, storytelling. D, stick fighting. So let us look at it and eliminate again, or process of elimination. And remember, I'm going to put this video right here that deals with how you can approach multiple choice questions, so you can listen to it and get some tips. All right, so A and B, once you have wake and nine nights in the options, there's a higher possibility that you can eliminate them, because the nine night is a part of the wake complex. And so if you are going to give a response that has to do with wake or nine nights, you would not necessarily utilize the two terms in the options. And so right off the top, we can remove the A and the B. So we are left with two options. We are left with storytelling and we are left with stick fighting. Now, storytelling here, what the storytelling does, it allows you to stop and question. It gives you leverage to be able to talk to the audience. As a matter of fact, storytelling for the character here to be able to stop and ask the audience a question, what it simply means is that the imaginary wall that exists between the audience and the character on stage is actually broken. And so storytelling is the most likely cultural form that allows you to break that fourth wall seamlessly. Yes, a storyteller has that kind of leverage. And so the most appropriate answer here would be C, storytelling. How many of you got this one correct? If you did, put it in the comment section and said, I got number 16 correct. So you have to find a way to break down the questions, analyze them, and employ critical thinking. All right, and so this has now brought us to the end of this video on the past paper questions. I do trust and hope that you found it quite useful. It was quite informative. You would have learned some things would be much clearer, and I hope as well that you will be able to utilize all that you've learned here in your examination. So until I make another video, thank you so much for watching, and before you go, remember, give the video a like, share the video also with one of your counterparts who may not know that it is there, and also just go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Take care and walk good.